The void between stars had been silent for 3,000 years. The Galactic Council maintained this peace through careful diplomacy and the understanding that war among the stars would mean the end of all civilizations. Every species that joined the Council agreed to limit their military forces to small patrol vessels. No warships, no weapons of mass destruction, just peace, trade, and prosperity. Commander Zix Theta of the Altarian Defense Force was conducting a routine patrol near the Outer Rim when his sensors detected something impossible. The readings made no sense. His 3 eyes blinked in confusion as he checked the data again. "Lieutenant, run a diagnostic on our sensors," he ordered, his voice carrying the musical tones of his species. "Sensors are functioning normally, Commander," the lieutenant replied after a moment. "The object is real." Oh, what they were seeing defied everything they knew about spacefaring civilizations. A ship was approaching, but its size was beyond comprehension. The patrol vessel's computer struggled to calculate its dimensions: 5 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide. The mass readings were off the charts. "It must be a generation ship," Zix Theta said, trying to rationalize what he was seeing. "Some primitive species attempting to colonize nearby systems," but as the object drew closer, that comfortable explanation crumbled. This was no colony ship. Every surface bristled with what could only be weapons, massive cannons that dwarfed anything in the Galactic Council's arsenal, missile pods by the hundreds, energy weapon arrays that pulsed with barely contained power. "Commander, I'm detecting an energy signature from the vessel," the communications officer said, her feathers ruffling in alarm. It's trying to communicate. Put it through the translator." The bridge fell silent as an alien voice filled the air. The translator worked overtime, struggling with the unfamiliar language before finally producing coherent words. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force battleship Prometheus. We are entering Galactic Council space and request diplomatic contact. Earth." The name sent a shiver through everyone on the bridge. They had heard rumors about Earth, a small blue planet in an unremarkable system. The Council had sent a diplomatic mission there 50 years ago, but the team had returned with troubling reports. The humans, as they called themselves, had politely declined the invitation to join the Galactic Council. They claimed they needed more time to prepare. Now it seemed they had finished their preparations. "Send an emergency message to Council headquarters," Zix Theta ordered. "Priority 1. Tell them Earth has arrived." The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On the Council's capital world of Centauri Prime, emergency sessions were called. Representatives from 100 different species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall, their various forms of anxiety on full display. Scales rattled, fur stood on end, tentacles writhed nervously. High Counselor Yorak, an ancient being from the original founding species, called for order. "We have confirmed reports of a massive warship from Earth entering our space. This is unprecedented. No member of the Council has ever built such a vessel." "They're not members of the Council," someone pointed out. "Which makes this even more troubling," Yorak continued. "For 3 millennia, we have maintained peace by ensuring no single species could dominate the others. This battleship changes everything." Ambassador Keela of the Vegan Collective stood to address the assembly. "Perhaps we're overreacting. One ship, no matter how large, cannot threaten the entire galaxy. We should attempt peaceful contact." "One ship?" scoffed General Mock of the Regelian Empire. "Have you seen the tactical analysis? That one ship has more firepower than entire sector fleets. Its armor is composed of some unknown alloy that our computers can't even identify. And the energy readings. It's powered by something we don't understand." The debate raged for hours. Some counselors advocated for immediate military action, others for diplomacy. But beneath all the argument lay a single, terrifying question. Why had the humans built such a vessel? Meanwhile, the Prometheus continued its steady journey toward Centauri Prime. On board, Captain Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports with her senior staff. The bridge was a model of human engineering efficiency, every surface and control optimized for combat operations. "The Council is panicking," reported Commander Torres, her first officer. Their media networks are calling us everything from conquerors to destroyers of peace. Teen. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Good. Let them wonder. How long until we reach communication range with their capital? 6 hours, Captain. And our escorts? The fleet is maintaining position in dark space. As ordered. They're ready to jump in on your command. Chen smiled. The Prometheus was just the tip of the spear. Hidden in the cosmic dark, an entire human battle fleet waited. Dozens of ships, each a masterpiece of human military engineering. The galaxy thought one battleship was frightening. They had no idea what was coming. Captain, I'm curious, said Dr. Yamato, the ship's chief scientist. Why reveal ourselves now? We could have remained hidden for decades more. Building our strength. Because hiding time is over, Doctor. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity will not be anyone's subject. We've watched them for 50 years. We've seen how the strong prey on the weak, how the Council maintains its power through fear disguised as peace. Well, they're about to learn what real strength looks like. The crew nodded in agreement. Every human on board had studied the history of Earth, how humanity had clawed its way from the mud to the stars, through determination and ingenuity. They had fought wars that would make the peaceful galaxy tremble. They had survived apocalypses that would have ended other species. And now, they were ready to take their place among the stars on their own terms. Back on Centauri Prime, the Council's military advisors presented their analysis of the human vessel. The findings were disturbing. The battleship's weapons weren't just powerful. They were designed with a brutal efficiency that spoke of a species intimate with warfare. Kinetic weapons that could crack moons, energy beams that could slice through the heaviest armor, and most terrifying of all, what appeared to be some kind of quantum torpedo system that their scientists couldn't even theorize about. How did they develop such technology? Demanded Counselor Threck. Our intelligence suggested they were barely capable of interplanetary travel. We underestimated them, admitted Intelligence Director Quinn. The humans showed us what they wanted us to see. While we watched their primitive rockets and basic space stations, they were developing technologies in secret. They've been preparing for this moment since first contact. The implications were staggering. If the humans had hidden their true capabilities for 50 years, what else were they hiding? How many more ships did they have? What other weapons had they developed in secret? As the Prometheus drew closer to Centauri Prime, panic began to spread among the civilian population. The media broadcast continuous coverage of the approaching behemoth. Religious leaders declared it a sign of the end times. Merchants fled the system with their most valuable goods. Parents held their offspring close, wondering what kind of galaxy their children would inherit. On a dozen worlds, military commanders quietly began to mobilize their forces. The peace of 3,000 years was crumbling, and everyone could feel it. Some species began to form hasty alliances, hoping that together they might stand against the human threat. Others retreated to their home systems, preparing to defend their worlds against the coming storm. But perhaps the most telling response came from the Zephyrians, an ancient race known for their wisdom and foresight. They had been among the first to achieve faster-than-light travel, and their libraries contained the history of 1,000,000 worlds. When their elders convened to discuss the human arrival, their conclusion was simple and terrifying. The humans are not here to join the galaxy, the eldest Zephyrian intoned. They are here to change it, and may the cosmic forces help any who stand in their way. As the Prometheus entered the outer system of Centauri Prime, Captain Chen stood before the main view screen. Watching the jewel of the galaxy grow larger, hundreds of ships were gathering to meet them. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council. It was an impressive sight, but Chen was not impressed. She had seen Earth's full fleet in action during war games. She knew what her species was capable of. Open a channel to the Council, she ordered. Channel open. Captain. Chen straightened her uniform and looked directly into the camera. Across the galaxy, billions of beings would see this moment. The moment when everything changed. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had absolute confidence in their position. I am Captain Sarah Chen, of the Earth Defense Force. I bring greetings from the United Earth Government and a message for all who would hear it. She paused, letting the tension build. On 1,000 worlds, beings held their breath. For 50 years, you have known of our existence. You came to our world and offered us a place in your peaceful galaxy, subservient to your council, limited by your rules, confined by your vision of what civilization should be. We declined your offer then, and we decline it now. Gasps echoed through government buildings and public spaces across known space. We have not come to conquer, Chen continued. But neither have we come to bow. Earth stands ready to engage with the galaxy as equals. We offer trade to those who deal fairly, friendship to those who approach in good faith, and protection to those who cannot protect themselves. Her expression hardened, and when she spoke again, her voice carried an edge of steel. But to those who would threaten us, who would attempt to force us into submission, who would prey upon the weak while we watch, know this: Earth did not crawl its way from the darkness to kneel before distant stars. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day. Descendants of survivors who turned a hostile planet into a home through will and ingenuity. We have split the atom, conquered disease, and walked among the stars by our own strength. The camera angle shifted, showing the massive weapon arrays of the Prometheus behind her. This ship is not a threat, it is a statement. We are here, we are staying, and we will engage with the galaxy on our own terms. The age of Earth's isolation is over. What comes next depends on you. With that, the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, the reaction was immediate and intense. Some saw it as a declaration of war, others as an opportunity. On dark stations and pirate havens, criminals who had preyed on the weak suddenly felt a chill of fear. On worlds oppressed by stronger neighbors, hope sparked for the first time in generations. And in the great council chambers of Centauri Prime, High Counselor Yorek stared at the tactical display showing the human battleship. One ship. Just one ship. And it had already changed everything. What do we do now? Asked Counselor Threk. Yorek's ancient eyes closed slowly. We learn. Counselor. We learn what happens when a species that grew strong in isolation finally decides to face the stars. And we pray to whatever powers we believe in, that the humans meant what they said about not coming to conquer. But even as he spoke, Yorek wondered. The humans claimed they didn't want to conquer. But they had built a warship that could devastate worlds. They spoke of peace while brandishing weapons that could end civilizations. What kind of species did such things? The answer, he feared, was the kind of species that had learned the hardest lesson the universe could teach. That sometimes, the only way to ensure peace was to be so strong that no one dared to break it. The galaxy had maintained its peace through agreement and limitation. Earth seemed intent on maintaining its independence through strength and deterrence. The two philosophies were about to collide, and the outcome would reshape the very foundations of galactic civilization. As the Prometheus took up position in high orbit around Centauri Prime, its weapons powered down but ready, Captain Chen allowed herself a small smile. The first move had been made. The galaxy had seen Earth's strength. Now they would have to decide, would they accept humanity as equals, or would they try to force the newcomers to conform? Either way, Chen was ready. Behind her, hidden in the darkness between stars, the Earth fleet waited. Hundreds of ships, thousands of crew, all united in a single purpose. Humanity would take its place among the stars as a free and sovereign people, or they would make the galaxy burn trying to stop them. The age of Earth had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its third day. Representatives from every corner of civilized space had been debating, arguing, and sometimes shouting about how to respond to the human arrival. The Prometheus still hung in orbit like a steel mountain, its presence a constant reminder that the galaxy's comfortable order had been shattered. Admiral Krontar of the Andromedan Navy stood before the assembly, his crystalline form glowing with barely suppressed anger. 3 days of talk while that monstrosity orbits our capital. Every moment we delay, we appear weaker. I say we gather our fleets and demand the humans withdraw immediately. And if they refuse? Asked Ambassador Velix, her tentacles writhing nervously. That ship has enough firepower to devastate our combined fleet. We've run the simulations 100 times. Then we die with honor rather than cower in fear. Krontar's declaration echoed through the chamber. But the enthusiasm for his position was limited. High Counselor Yorak raised a frail appendage for silence. Perhaps it is time we actually speak with Captain Chen face to face. We have spent 3 days discussing the humans without once attempting real dialogue. The human captain made their position clear, protested Counselor Morak. They reject our authority. They reject our subordination, corrected Yorak. There is a difference. Send the invitation. Let us see what these humans truly want. On board the Prometheus, Captain Chen received the Council's invitation with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to plan. She turned to her command staff. Assembled in the ship's war room. They've taken the bait, she announced. They want to meet. Commander Torres pulled up a holographic display of Centauri Prime. Security will be tight. They're terrified of you, Captain. Good. Fear is the first step toward respect. Chen studied the display. I'll take a minimal escort. We want to appear confident. Not aggressive. Captain, Dr. Yamato interjected. May I suggest including myself in the delegation? It might be useful to have someone analyze their biological responses during negotiations. Chen nodded. Agreed. Torres, you'll command the ship while I'm gone. If anything happens to our delegation, I'll remind them why humanity spent half its history perfecting the art of war, Torres finished grimly. As the human shuttle departed the Prometheus, sensors across the system tracked its every move. The small craft was itself a marvel of human engineering. Sleek and deadly. With armor that seemed to drink in sensor scans, even their shuttles were warships in miniature. The Council had chosen to meet in the Hall of Unity, a massive structure that had hosted the signing of the original Galactic Peace Accords 3 millennia ago. As Chen's delegation entered, they found themselves facing representatives from every major species in the Council. The air was thick with tension, and a dozen different atmospheric mixtures catering to various physiologies. Chen walked with the measured stride of a predator entering rival territory. She wore her dress uniform, its dark fabric adorned with medals that spoke of battles the peaceful galaxy couldn't imagine. Behind her, Dr. Yamato observed everything with sharp eyes, while 2 Marines in power armor flanked them, their weapons prominently displayed. Captain Chen. High Counselor Yorak greeted, his voice amplified through translation systems. Welcome to Centauri Prime. I trust your journey was comfortable? Quite comfortable, Chen replied, taking the seat offered to her. The human chair had been hastily fabricated, as standard Council furniture wasn't designed for human physiology. I appreciate the Council making time to meet with us. You gave us little choice, Admiral Krontar interjected harshly. Arriving in our space with a warship that violates every treaty and accord we've established. Chen's smile was cold. Treaties Earth never signed, Admiral. Accords we were never party to. Or did you expect us to limit ourselves based on agreements made before humanity had even discovered fire? The treaties exist to preserve peace, Counselor Morak insisted. Every civilized species recognizes their necessity. Every subordinate species. You mean, Chen countered. Tell me, Counselor. When the Regelians were raiding vegan colonies 40 years ago, where was this precious peace? When the Tau Ceti mining cartels were exploiting pre-spaceflight civilizations, did your treaties stop them? Uncomfortable silence greeted her words. The incidents she mentioned were well-documented failures of the Council's system, times when the strong had indeed preyed upon the weak, while the Council deliberated and issued meaningless sanctions. Those were isolated incidents, Yorak said carefully. The system isn't perfect, but it has prevented galactic war for 3,000 years. By keeping everyone equally weak, Chen responded. Except that's not really true, is it? Some species maintain larger patrol fleets than others. Some have better technology that they share selectively. Your peace is built on a careful balance of power that favors the founders of the Council. And you would upset that balance? Ambassador Velix asked. We already have. Chen gestured toward the window, where the Prometheus was visible in the distance. The question is, what happens next? And a 3. 1 fall. 145. And a 3-5. Dr. Yamato leaned forward slightly. If I may, honored representatives, I think you misunderstand humanity's position. We haven't come to destroy your peace. We've come to perfect it. All eyes turned to the scientist. For 3,000 years, you've maintained order through voluntary weakness, Yamato continued. But what happens when someone chooses not to be weak? Your own histories show the answer. They dominate until the Council finds a way to force them into compliance or destruction. How many species have you had to pacify over the millennia? The Council members shifted uncomfortably. The number was higher than they liked to admit. Humanity offers a different model, Yamato explained. Peace through strength. Not the strength of one to dominate all, but the strength of many to ensure that none can dominate. We're prepared to share our technology, to help others build their own defenses, to create a galaxy where peace is maintained not through voluntary weakness, but through mutual deterrence. You would arm the galaxy? Krontar sounded horrified. We would free it, Chen said simply. Every species would have the means to defend itself. No more would the strong prey upon the weak because the weak would no longer be weak. That's madness, Councillor Threck exclaimed. It would lead to an arms race, to conflict on a scale we've never seen. Would it? Chen asked. On Earth, we have a saying. An armed society is a polite society. When everyone is capable of defending themselves, aggression becomes far too costly to contemplate. You speak of theories, Yorak said slowly. But Earth itself has a history of devastating wars. Why should we believe your model would work better than ours? Chen's expression grew serious. Because we learned from those wars, Counselor. We learned that the only thing worse than being prepared for war is being unprepared when it comes. And war always comes, eventually. Your 3,000 years of peace? It's an aberration. A fortunate accident that has lasted only because no one has seriously challenged it. Until now. Is that a threat? Krontar demanded. It's a reality check, Chen replied. We're not threatening anyone, but our very existence proves that your system is fragile. What happens when the next species develops in secret as we did? What if they're not as reasonable as humanity? The question hung heavy in the air. Several council members exchanged worried glances. They had always assumed their system would endure, that new species would inevitably see the wisdom of peaceful coexistence and voluntary limitation. The humans had shattered that comfortable assumption. What exactly are you proposing? Yorak asked finally. Chen stood, activating a holographic projector. A star map appeared, showing the galaxy with Earth at its center. The Earth Defense Force is prepared to establish a new framework for galactic security. We call it the Alliance of Free Worlds. The projection showed trade routes, defense pacts, and technology-sharing agreements, spreading out from Earth like a web. Any species that wishes to join would receive access to human military technology, Chen explained. In exchange, they agree to mutual defense treaties and commit to protecting smaller civilizations in their sectors. No more exploitation of pre-spaceflight species. No more raids on weaker neighbors. Any aggression would be met with the combined might of the Alliance. You would create a rival to the Council, Velix observed. We would create an alternative, Chen corrected. The Council could continue to exist for those who prefer its methods. But for species that want true security, true independence, we offer another path. The implications were staggering. The galaxy had known only one system of governance for 3 millennia. Now the humans were proposing to create a competing structure, one based on military strength rather than diplomatic agreements. This is intolerable, Admiral Krontar declared. You cannot simply arrive and remake galactic civilization to suit your preferences. Chen's eyes hardened. Watch us. The 2 Marines behind her shifted slightly, a subtle reminder of the force backing her words. In orbit, The Prometheus's weapons arrays began a routine calibration cycle that looked suspiciously like target acquisition to nervous council observers. Perhaps, Yorak said quickly, we should take time to consider this proposal. Such a fundamental change cannot be decided hastily. Of course, Chen agreed. Take all the time you need. But while you deliberate, we'll be making our offer to individual species. I think you'll find many are tired of being vulnerable, tired of depending on the Council's protection that sometimes never comes. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and counselors? You should know that the Prometheus isn't alone. Our fleet stands ready to ensure the safety of any species that chooses to ally with Earth. We protect our friends. With that, the human delegation departed, leaving chaos in their wake. As soon as the doors closed, the chamber erupted in heated debate. We cannot allow this, Krontar roared. They'll destroy everything we've built. Will they? Asked a small voice from the back. It was Representative Keeks of the Epsilon Eridani colonies, a species that had suffered repeated raids despite Council protection. Or will they offer us something better? You cannot seriously be considering their proposal, Morak said incredulously. Why not? Chix stood taller. For centuries, we've begged for better defenses. We've pleaded for help against raiders and pirates. The Council always promises action but delivers only words. Now someone offers us the means to protect ourselves. And you want us to refuse? Other representatives began murmuring agreement. The Tau Ceti refugees, the Barnard Star mining colonies, dozens of smaller species who had suffered under the current system. They were seeing opportunity where the Council saw only threat. Back on the Prometheus, Chen met with her senior staff to review the meeting. Initial psychological analysis suggests we've created the intended fracture lines, Dr. Yamoto reported. The smaller species are definitely interested. The major powers are terrified of losing control. Perfect, Chen said. Torres, send the signal. It's time for Phase 2. In the darkness between stars, the Earth fleet received their orders. One by one, ships began jumping into systems across the galaxy. Not as invaders, but as protectors. They arrived at worlds plagued by pirates, colonies under threat from aggressive neighbors, species struggling to defend themselves. Each ship brought the same message. Earth stands ready to help. Join us, and never be vulnerable again. On the frontier world of Kepler 442b, a human destroyer arrived just in time to drive off a raiding party that had been terrorizing the local population for months. The captain offered the colony defensive satellites and training in their use, asking nothing in return except future friendship. Near the Veil Nebula, a human frigate intervened in what would have been a massacre, placing itself between a refugee convoy and their pursuers. The message was clear. Those under Earth's protection were safe. Within days, requests for Alliance membership began pouring in. Small colonies, frontier worlds, species that had long been overlooked by the Council's power structure. Each agreement sent shockwaves through the established order. The Galactic Council watched in horror as their carefully maintained system began to crack. Some members called for military action, others for negotiations. But what could they do? Every simulation showed the same result. The human fleet was too strong to defeat quickly, and a prolonged war would devastate the galaxy they had sworn to protect. On Earth, the United Government watched the developments with satisfaction. 50 years of preparation were paying off. The factory ships hidden in the asteroid belt continued to produce vessels at an unprecedented rate. Training academies graduated new officers versed in both warfare and diplomacy. Research stations pushed the boundaries of physics to develop even more powerful technologies. Humanity had not come to conquer, but they had come to change everything. The galaxy would never be the same. In her ready room aboard the Prometheus, Captain Chen received a priority message from Earth. She read it twice, then smiled. The message was simple. Phase 3 authorized. Show them the future. Chen activated her command interface. All hands. This is the captain. Prepare for demonstration Alpha. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. In the depths of the Prometheus, systems that had been dormant since launch began to activate. Power readings spiked beyond anything the Watching Council sensors had previously detected. Something was about to happen. Something that would either usher in a new age of galactic civilization or trigger the very war everyone feared. The galaxy held its breath and waited. The ancient monitoring station at the edge of Council space detected it first. A massive surge of gravitational distortion. Unlike anything in their databases, the technician on duty stared at the readings in disbelief before frantically sending an alert to Centauri Prime. Within minutes, every major military installation in the galaxy was tracking the anomaly. It centered on the Prometheus, still maintaining its position in orbit. But the readings made no sense. The energy output was impossibly high, as if the ship was tearing a hole in space itself. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Chen stood calmly as her crew executed the demonstration. Status report. Quantum field generators at full power, Captain, the chief engineer reported. Dimensional membrane is stable. We're ready to proceed. Do it. With a simple command, humanity changed the nature of warfare forever. Space around the Prometheus began to ripple and fold. The massive battleship seemed to blur, becoming translucent, then transparent, and then, to the horror of everyone watching, it vanished completely, not jumped to hyperspace, not cloaked, simply ceased to exist in normal space. Panic erupted across the Council's military networks. A 5-kilometer battleship had just disappeared without a trace. No ship that large could hide from sensors. Yet the Prometheus was gone. "Find that ship," Admiral Krontar roared at his staff. "Full sensor sweep. Check every spectrum," but there was nothing to find. The Prometheus had phased into a parallel dimension. Existing in the same location but offset from normal space, it was a technology that humanity had developed in absolute secrecy, something that the galaxy's scientists would have deemed impossible. Then, as suddenly as it had vanished, the Prometheus reappeared, but not where it had been. The massive warship materialized inside the defensive perimeter of Centauri Prime's orbital stations, past every shield and barrier, in the heart of the Council's most protected space. The implications hit every military mind simultaneously. If human ships could phase through dimensions, no defense could stop them. They could appear anywhere, strike without warning, bypass any protection. The ultimate strategic advantage. Counselors, Chen's voice came through on all channels, calm and controlled. This is just one of the technologies humanity has developed. We can share this knowledge with our allies, ensuring their protection, or we can use it to enforce our will. The choice is yours. In the council chambers, pandemonium reigned. Representatives shouted over each other, some calling for immediate surrender, others for desperate resistance. High Counselor Yorak struggled to maintain order, but the demonstration had shattered any remaining illusions about human capabilities. "They could destroy us all," whispered Counselor Velix. "Appear inside our worlds, our stations, our ships. There's no defense against this, which is exactly why we need their alliance," Representative Kix argued. "Would you rather have this technology as a friend or face it as an enemy?" But the real shock came moments later. Sensors detected more gravitational anomalies across the galaxy. Not one or two, but hundreds. In system after system, human ships began to phase into normal space. The hidden fleet had revealed itself at last. The galaxy watched in stunned awe as humanity's true power became apparent. Battleships that dwarfed the Prometheus. Carriers launching fighters equipped with phase technology. Cruisers bristling with weapons beyond understanding. And at the heart of it all, a vessel that defied classification, the EDF Everest emerged from phase space near the galactic core. 10 kilometers of impossibly advanced technology. It was less a ship and more a mobile fortress. Its appearance sent ripples through space-time itself, and its power signature was visible on sensors from halfway across the galaxy. From the bridge of the Everest, Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb surveyed the tactical display showing human forces throughout the galaxy. They had positioned themselves not as conquerors, but as shields. Every ship had taken station near a vulnerable world or threatened colony. "All vessels report ready, Admiral," his aide announced. "Signal Captain Chen. Tell her the fleet stands ready to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Back on Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council faced the greatest decision in its 3,000-year history. The human fleet hadn't fired a shot, hadn't made any aggressive moves. They had simply positioned themselves as protectors and waited. "I call for a vote," Representative Kix announced, standing before the assembly. "The Epsilon Eridani colonies formally request membership in the Alliance of Free Worlds." "You can't be serious," Councillor Morak protested. "You would abandon the Council for these newcomers?" "The Council had 3,000 years to protect us," Chix replied firmly. "In 3 days, the humans have shown more willingness to defend the weak than you have in millennia." "Yes, we choose them." One by one, other representatives stood. The Tau Ceti refugees, the Barnard star miners, the frontier colonies that had begged for protection, dozens of smaller species who had lived in fear despite the Council's promises. "This is treason," Admiral Krontar declared. "No," said a new voice. Ambassador Keela of the Vegan Collective rose slowly. "This is evolution. The galaxy is changing whether we like it or not. The question is whether we change with it or get left behind." The Vegan Collective's support sent shockwaves through the chamber. They were one of the major powers, a founding member of the Council. If they were considering the human offer, High Councillor Yorak closed his ancient eyes, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. For 3 millennia, his people had guided the galaxy, maintaining peace through careful balance and controlled weakness. Now that age was ending, swept away by a species that had learned different lessons from their struggles. "I call for a recess," he announced. "We will reconvene tomorrow to decide our path forward." As the representatives filed out, many were already communicating with their homeworlds. The choice was becoming clear. Join the humans in their new order, or risk being left behind, as the galaxy reorganized around them. That night, secure communications channels buzzed with activity. Secret meetings were held. Alliances proposed and discarded. Some species began mobilizing their fleets. Others started negotiating with human representatives. The old order was crumbling in real time. Captain Chen met with the first wave of alliance applicants aboard the Prometheus. Each species sent representatives to formally request membership and receive their first shipments of defensive technology. The human crew worked efficiently, distributing shield generators, weapon systems, and most importantly, training programs. "You must understand," Chen told each new member, "this technology comes with responsibility. You will use it to defend yourselves and others, never for conquest. Any species that violates this trust will find humanity a far worse enemy than any you've faced before." They all agreed eagerly. After centuries of vulnerability, the promise of security was worth any conditions. By morning, the shape of the new galaxy was becoming clear. Nearly a third of Council members had applied for Alliance membership. More were wavering. The major powers found themselves increasingly isolated, their influence eroding by the hour. When the Council reconvened, High Councillor Yorak faced a transformed assembly. Empty seats marked species that had already departed to join the Alliance. Others sat with new confidence, knowing they had alternatives. "We stand at a crossroads," Yorak began, his voice heavy with the moment. "We can resist this change and risk devastating conflict. Or we can adapt to a new reality. I have spent the night in contemplation, reviewing our history and our failures, and I have reached a conclusion." The chamber fell silent. "The humans are right," Yorak continued. "Our system, for all its accomplishments, has fundamental flaws. We maintained peace by keeping everyone weak. But in doing so, we also kept them vulnerable. Perhaps it is time for a new approach." "You cannot be serious," Admiral Krontar protested. "I am entirely serious," Yorak replied. "I propose that the Council itself apply for membership in the Alliance of Free Worlds. Not as rulers, but as partners. Let us help build this new galaxy rather than futilely resist it." The debate that followed was fierce, but brief. The writing was on the wall. Species after species voted in favor, recognizing that the age of enforced weakness was over. Even the holdouts eventually agreed, unwilling to stand alone against the tide of change. The formal ceremony took place aboard the Everest. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered in its massive assembly hall, a space designed specifically for this moment. Captain Chen stood beside Fleet Admiral Webb as High Counselor Yorak approached. On behalf of the Galactic Council and all its member species, Yorak intoned, "We formally request membership in the Alliance of Free Worlds. We pledge to defend the weak, to share knowledge freely, and to build a galaxy where all species can stand as equals. The Alliance accepts your membership." Admiral Webb replied formally, "Together, we'll forge a future where peace comes not from weakness, but from the strength to protect what we value." As the documents were signed, humanity's fabricator ships began producing technology for their new allies: defense satellites, shield generators, training simulators, the tools needed to transform a galaxy of potential victims into a community of defenders. But not everyone accepted the new order peacefully. In the dark spaces between stars, those who had profited from the old system's weaknesses began to gather. Pirates, raiders, criminal cartels that had thrived on exploitation watched their hunting grounds transform into fortified space. The first test came 3 weeks after the Alliance's formation. A massive pirate fleet, larger than any seen before, attacked the mining colonies of Proxima Centauri. They expected easy prey, as always. Instead, they found the colonies protected by new shield technology and defended by an Alliance rapid response force. The battle was brief and decisive. Human phase technology allowed Alliance ships to appear within the pirate formation, devastating them before they could react. The few survivors were given a choice: surrender and face justice, or be hunted to extinction. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Criminal elements that had operated with impunity for centuries suddenly found themselves facing consequences. The Alliance's reach was long, and its response swift. Within 6 months, the transformation was remarkable. Shipping lanes that had been dangerous for millennia became safe. Colonies that had lived in constant fear began to thrive. Technologies that had been hoarded by the powerful spread throughout the galaxy, raising the quality of life for billions. The Alliance's training academies were flooded with applicants. Every species wanted to learn human military doctrine, to understand the strategies that had allowed one world to change the entire galaxy. Human instructors found eager students who absorbed lessons not just in warfare, but in the philosophy behind it. "Remember," one instructor told her mixed-species class, "strength is not for domination. It's for protection. The moment you use your power to oppress rather than defend, you become the very thing we stand against." On Earth, the transformation was equally profound. No longer hidden and isolated, humanity took its place as a leader in galactic affairs. Trade flowed in both directions, bringing new technologies, resources, and cultural exchanges that enriched both Earth and its new partners. Children who had grown up knowing only Earth now looked to the stars with new eyes, not as a place of potential threat, but as a community they were part of. Human ships carried aid to disaster-struck worlds. Human doctors shared medical knowledge that saved countless lives, and human teachers spread the lessons learned from their harsh history. Captain Sarah Chen, promoted to admiral for her role in the transformation, stood on the observation deck of the newest Alliance installation. It orbited a star at the galaxy's center, a massive station where all species could meet, trade, and plan their shared future. "Any regrets?" Dr. Yamato asked, joining her at the viewport. "None," Chen replied without hesitation. "We gave the galaxy a choice: continue with a flawed peace or embrace a stronger future. They chose wisely, and if they hadn't," Chen's expression hardened slightly, "then we would have protected those who needed it anyway. One way or another, the age of the strong preying on the weak was going to end." Outside the viewport, ships from 100 different species moved in harmony, their crews training together, learning from each other, building bonds that would last generations. It was a sight that would have been impossible just a year ago. High Counselor Yorak, now serving as an advisor to the Alliance Council, approached them. Age had bent his form, but his eyes held new vitality. "I have lived for longer than most can imagine," he said, his translated voice thoughtful. "I have seen empires rise and fall, watched species emerge and vanish, but I have never seen anything like what humanity has accomplished." "We didn't do it alone," Chen pointed out. "Your support was crucial." "Perhaps," Yorak agreed. "But it was your vision that made it possible. For 3,000 years, we thought peace required weakness. You showed us it required strength. Strength to protect, to stand against injustice, to build something better." A communication alert interrupted their conversation. A new species had been discovered on the edge of the galaxy, just achieving faster than light travel. The Alliance's first contact team was requesting guidance. "Well," Chen said with a smile, "shall we go welcome them to a better galaxy?" As their ship departed for the frontier, the transformed galaxy continued its new course. The age of enforced weakness was over. The age of protected freedom had begun, and at its heart was a simple truth that humanity had learned through millennia of struggle. True peace comes not from the absence of strength, but from the wisdom to use it wisely. The warships still patrolled, their weapons still ready. But now, they protected instead of threatened, defended instead of conquered. The galaxy had learned humanity's most important lesson. The strongest shield is one forged from many swords, unified in purpose. Earth's battleship had arrived, and with it had come not conquest but liberation. Not domination but partnership. Not an ending but a new beginning. And across 1,000 worlds, beings who had once cowered in fear now stood tall, knowing that they were no longer alone, no longer vulnerable. They were part of something greater, something stronger, something that would endure. The alliance of free worlds had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.